Stotra Tata Shisham Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Nirjala Ekadashi Mahotsav ki Ama Veda Bhaktivinoda ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to Samadhi. All glories to Samadhi. All glories to Samadhi. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasim.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiriye. Nastaprayeshu Vabhadreshu.
Nastaprayeshu Vabhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Tamashloke.
Bhagavati Uttamaśloke.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Devasiddhan Mandir Shrimadbhagavatam class. Thank you for this opportunity. Today, Canto 1, Chapter 6, text number 26. 26?
Yes.
26? Yesterday you did 25 then, okay. Conversation between Narada and Vyasa. Day. Krishna has a plan. Namani antasya tatipanapatam. Goyani bhadrani kirtanya chashmaran. Gamparyatas tushtamanagatas spriha. Shalam prasham vimado vimatsara. Namani antasya tatre papathan. Goyani bhadrani kritani chashmaran. Gamparyatam stushtamanagatas priyaha. Kalam prakritisham Kalam pratikasham vimado vimatsara. Namani antasya tate papathan. Guyani bhadrani kritani chashmaran. Gamparyatam stuштagmanagata spriha.
Gamparyatam stuштagmanagata spriha.
Kalam pratiksham vimado vimatsaraha.
Kalam pratiksham vimado vimatsaraha. Amanyanantasya chapapatam.
Amanyantasya patam.
Guyani bhadrani kritani chasmaram.
Guyani bhadrani kritani chashmaran.
Gamparyatam stushtamanagata spriha.
Gamparyatam stushtamanagata spriha.
Kalam pratiksham vimado vimatsaraha. Kalam pratiksham vimado vimatsaraha. Namanyantasya hatatrapapatan.
Namanyantasya tatripahapatan.
Guhyani bhadrani kritani chasmaran.
Guyani bhadrani kritani chashmaran.
Gamparyatam स्पृहा
Gamparyatam stushtamanagataspriyaha
कालं प्रतीक्षन् विमदो विमत्सरः
Kalam pratiksham vimado vimatsaraha Namani antasya tatripahastam Guryani bhadrani kritani chashman Namani, the holy name, fame, etc. Anantasya, of the unlimited. Hatatripaha, being freed from all formalities of the material world. Patan, by recitation. By recitation, repeated reading, etc. Guyani, mysterious. Bhadrani, all benedictory. Kritani, activities. Cha, and Smaran, constantly remembering. Gam, on the earth. Paryatan, traveling all through. Tushtamana, fully satisfied. Gataspriya, completely freed from all material desires. Kalam, time. Pratikshan, awaiting. Vimada, without being proud. Vimatsaraha, without being envious. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental passion of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. Please repeat. Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humbled and unenvious. Purport. The life of a sincere devotee of the Lord is thus explained in a nutshell by Narada Muni, by his personal example. Such a devotee, after his initiation by the Lord or his bona fide representative, takes very seriously by one single desire to go back to Godhead. This awaits them in the due course of quitting the material body. Because they have the highest aim of life, going back to Godhead, they are never envious of anyone, nor are they proud of being eligible to go back to Godhead. Their only business is to chant and remember the holy name, fame, pastimes of the Lord, and according to personal capacity, to distribute the message for others' welfare without motive of material gain. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dudati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakambitanscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishapanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. Who's speaking this verse? Narada Muni. So Krishna has completed his speaking to Narada Muni, and in the prior verse he explains his concluding statements. And now Narada Muni is back speaking to Srila Vyasadeva and explaining the perfection of life, as Srila Prabhupada writes in the very beginning of the purport. The life of a sincere devotee of the Lord is explained in a nutshell by Narada Muni. Jai Shri Shri Radha Kintu Bihari, Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev, Jai Shri Nath Baladev, Jai Shri Shri Gaura, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta. So, on this auspicious day of Pandava Ekadashi, Nirjala Ekadashi, some of us don't consider it auspicious. Too much tapasya. Too much tapasya. We lament, oh, Nirjala's coming. Oh no, what are we going to do? But we are blessed by Gauranga Mahaprabhu that he inaugurated this Sankirtana movement with very limited tapasya. We have very limited austerity we have to do. Actually, most of our life is filled of just singing, dancing, enjoying with the Lord. But there are a few days a year that we endure some tapasya. And this austerity, this tapasya, is a great benediction for us because it is an opportunity to purify our senses. When we endure some difficulty for the Lord, He becomes greatly pleased and in many ways feels compelled to shower mercy upon us. So this austerity that we do, it is never unanswered. Just as a child, when he performs some sacrifice for the pleasure of mother and father, that gesture is so greatly appreciated by mother and father that they shower unlimited love back in response. So similarly, our Supreme Father, Shri Shri Radha Kunj Bihari, when we endure some tapasya like observing a full fast today, we can have great faith and confidence that the Lord will be pleased by that austerity, and that there will be great reciprocation. And that reciprocation we should aspire for is given in this verse, actually, so nicely. This is like the perfect verse to discuss today. Because we go to the Lord thinking we need and want so many things. We make so many prayers for the Lord. Give me this, help me here, give me that. But Shrimadbhagavatam gives us the perfect recipe of what to pray for from the Lord. Actually, Krishna appreciates when we go to him and pray to him for something. But in our conditioned state, we don't know what to ask. I like to use the example that if you offer a child a handful of chocolates or a handful of diamonds, what will the child take?
The chocolate.
The chocolates. Now, from an external view, is that very intelligent? No. Because a handful of diamonds could buy mountains of chocolate, if you understood. But according to the child's understanding, he puts forward some request or makes such decision. So similarly, in our immature state, we put forth so many desires to the Lord. Give me this, help me here, give me that. But we are basically like a child, asking for chocolates or candies, instead of asking for something that is really valuable, that can really help us. And so, Narada Muni here is giving us, in the simplest of terms, the complete explanation of what we should do in our life. It's difficult to do, right? In one statement, tell us what the whole objective of our life is. But Narada Muni, being so expert, has synthesized everything into this beautiful statement. I began chanting the holy names and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. So if we unpack this verse, the prime benediction of humanity, we sing this every morning in our Shikshashtakam prayers, is to chant the holy names of the Lord. This is our greatest opportunity. And what is our greatest misfortune? Durdevam idrisha mahajane na anuragaha. I don't have attachment for the chanting of the holy names. Na anuraga, no raga, no attachment. This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presents in the second verse of Shikshashtakam. That I'm so unfortunate, he says. Why am I unfortunate? Durdevam? Because no attachment. Not unfortunate because I don't have, my visa process. I don't have so many, followers. I don't have so much money. I don't have this. I don't have that. My health. All these things that we go to the Lord and request relief from. But actually our only real misfortune is the lack of attachment to chanting the holy names of the Lord. Why? Because Narada Muni explains here. When we chant the holy names of the Lord, when we remember the holy names of the Lord, the pastimes of the Lord, kirtanam, shmaranam. When we do that, what happens? One is fully satisfied. He says, so doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied. What does fully satisfied means? Nashotati na kamshati. Right? We hear at the end of Bhagavad Gita. No lamentations and no hankerings. No, I want this, I want that. Fully satisfied. No more wants. After a big Sunday feast, some generous devotee sponsors a huge feast, and there are like 15 preparations, and there's unlimited quantity, and we eat, and then we are fully satisfied. We don't have any desires for any more. So, due to our material conditioning, we have so many desires and wants of things. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, that is the only means to become fully satisfied. There's no other way to be fully satisfied. We can achieve all the wealth in the world, all the fame, all the beauty, all the strength, all the intelligence, and still will be unsatisfied, wanting more. But if we have attachment to the chanting of the holy names, then we can become fully satisfied. So, as we observe our austerity today of some tapasya in observance of Nirjala Ekadashi, we can beg to the Lord, my dear Lord, if you feel so inspired to reciprocate with this fallen soul, give me one thing: attachment to the chanting of the holy names. Because again, as Srila Prabhupada has said, this is the life of a sincere devotee. The life of the sincere devotee is to chant the holy names. Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, Satatam Kirtayanto Mam. Right? What is the great devotee is doing? They are constantly chanting my glories. This is the activity. So, now Narada Muni speaks about two important qualities that we can say in one way is the result of this intense chanting of the holy names. Is that one is humble and unenvious. Right? In Shikshashtakam we see Tunadapi Sunichena, Tororapi Shishna, Amanina Manadena. These three principles. This is what allows Kirtanaya Sadahari. That how we can constantly chant the holy names of the Lord, one must be in a very humble position. How humble? More humble than a blade of grass. And a blade of grass is trampled upon by the feet of all pasture goers, yet never protests. One should be very tolerant. In order to be tolerant, one must be humble. If somebody comes and insults me, if I have an expectation of some recognition, then that insult will hurt. But if I have no expectation, if I understand my position as a tiny spark connected to the Supreme Lord in this conditioned state, then whatever may be spoken, it has no impact on my consciousness. So tolerance is born out of humility. How tolerant is a tree? If you kick the tree, it will still give you its fruit. If you chop down the tree, it will still give you heat when you burn it. If you yell at the tree, it will still give you shade from the scorching sun. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, this is how tolerant we should be. That's what we find in our conditioned state. At the slightest provocation, we become enraged. Why? This is due to our lack of humility. So humility, Srila Prabhupada explains in a purport, not in this purport, but he says that humility means not low self-esteem. Humility means to have an accurate understanding of who we are. Who are we? We know. We're part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So in one way we can be very proud. Hey, I am part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But my pride should be based in how great Krishna is. Because when I am acting independent of the Lord, I have no ability. I am completely and fully dependent on the Lord. Just as a spark, Prabhupada gives this example, in a fire. A spark has some heat and light, but in very small quantity. But if that spark travels too far from the fire, what happens to that spark? It dies. So that spark's light and heat is based on its connectivity to the fire. So whatever we are able to achieve, to perform, it is due to the connectivity to the Supreme Lord. That's it. Part and parcel, right? Whatever my hand can achieve, writing something nice, playing some nice music, whatever it might be, it's because it's connected to the whole, to the body. If my hand is over there, what it can do? Nothing. So the success of the hand is due to its connection to the whole. So similarly, whatever we can achieve, we understand it's due to our connection to the source. That's humility. It's not denying even one's capabilities. It's not rejecting one's capabilities. Oh, I don't want to, show my, use my abilities. That's actually false renunciation. Palgu vairagya. One should use whatever abilities they have to the fullest. But understand at all times where it comes from. It is coming from the Lord. And if one does, then one is in a humble position. Unenvious. We can speak about this for a moment. Prabhupada makes a nice statement in the purport that such devotees have no desire for material gain. They are conducted only by a single desire to go back to Godhead. Because they have the highest aim of life, going back to Godhead, they are never envious of anyone. So a devotee, by definition, must be not envious. Because a devotee has no concern for anything material. So whatever is happening in the material world, as Narada Muni says, ignoring all formalities of the material world. It doesn't even register in the consciousness. It's somebody's walking around with the best new latest iPhone. No problem. Somebody's driving around in the fanciest new car. The devotee's concern, what is their only concern? They have the highest aim of life, which is
Going back to God.
Going back to God. That is their concern. So then where is there any potential for envy? Oh, but there is. We see, right? Even in devotee association, there's a potential for envy. Oh, this devotee is getting this service, but I want that service. This devotee is getting this position, I want that position. This devotee is this, that. We see that it happens. Why? Because still our conditioned heart is in the process of purification. But the pure devotee of the Lord has no envy. Because when a devotee sees another devotee advancing, progressing in a quote-unquote superior position, that mood of the devotee becomes happy. They're celebratory. Wow, this devotee is one step closer to going back to God. They celebrate the success of others. And we see this mood repeatedly in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see extraordinary examples of this. In Ramkeli, when Rupa and Sanatana Goswami went to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was an extraordinary exchange between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showering so much mercy on Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And below, seated, were all the Gauda Bhakta-vrindas, all the associates of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, who were watching this exchange. Now, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in describing this, comments that the devotees who were observing this exchange were in ecstasy. They were ecstatic. But if we consider how we might be, at least speaking for myself, in a more practical example, I see somebody getting, great mercy from, our spiritual master. What happens in our heart? Why not me? Oh, I'm not getting that. What is that? That is still the tinges, the traces of envy in the heart. Instead of celebrating, wow, how fortunate that devotee is to be on the receiving end of such mercy and love, our mood goes to that is symptomatic of some envy. But when we see the activities of the pure devotees, we see celebrating Rupa and Sanatana Goswami getting this extraordinary mercy. So the result of constant chanting of the holy names is the purification of the heart, the removal of this envy from the heart. So if we want to pray to the Lord for more benedictions on Nirjala Ekadashi, one, what is the first thing we're going to pray for? Attachment to the holy names. And two, can you take this envy out of the heart? They actually go hand in hand. When there is envy in the heart, the taste of the holy names doesn't manifest. The envy prevents us from truly tasting the holy names. Why we don't have attachment? Because we don't have taste yet. But when the heart becomes purified, then the taste comes. Just like if I have a bowl of sweet rice, but in that sweet rice, I have put 5-6 tablespoons of salt. How that sweet rice is going to taste? This wonderful milk, straight from Gomata. Nice sugar, not this refined white sugar. Nice pure cane sugar is there. It is boiled to the perfect consistency. Everything is perfect. Nice and warm. I know I shouldn't be speaking like this on Nirjala Ekadashi. But then there's salt in it. What happens? The whole taste is ruined. This is what happens in our heart. When we have, nice japa beads, we get up early in the morning for Mangal Arti, Brahma Murta is there, I have my tilak anointing my body, neck beads on, head freshly shaved, all that's there. But when there is envy in the heart, that taste of the holy names becomes dissipated. That's why we see, there are 9 steps to Krishna Prema, right? Shraddha, with some faith. We then do some sadhu sangha, some association. Through association, bhajana kriya, we begin to practice the process of devotional service. Through the practice of devotional service, what happens? Anartha nivritti. That the anarthas, the impurities in the heart, become removed. Then nishta comes. One becomes fixed. Because until the impurities are removed, we cannot be fixed in spiritual life. We'll be material life, this, that, not aloof. When we become fixed, then ruchi, the taste. So this taste comes when we have cleansed the heart of all of our anarthas. Because when taste comes, ruchi, then a shakti, attachment. I can't get enough of the chanting of the holy names. I don't chant 16 rounds because I took a vow to my spiritual master. I chant because I can't get enough. Taste, it's so sweet that one is chanting. And like Rupa Goswami, like Prithu Maharaj, when it comes to that stage, what do they pray for? Millions of tongues. Because one tongue is not enough to chant the holy names. Right? When we chant our rounds, and we get to the 16th beat, done. I finished my rounds. We don't say I chanted my rounds, I relished. We say I finished my rounds. The goal often is to finish. Well, that's okay. That is in our impure state. But we know what is the goal? Where do we aspire to? This position where when the taste emerges, one is constantly chanting the holy names of the Lord. Completely aloof to all material circumstances. Free of all envy. Fully humble. And satisfied. That is how one is going to be satisfied. And in that state, travel all over the earth and spread this mission. Spread this knowledge. Share your bliss. Don't be selfish and lock it up in your own home, your own community, your own temple. To go out and share it. And that is the life of a devotee. That is what Narada Muni is explaining, he has done, of course, our great Srila Prabhupada left the comfortable confines of Shrimadbhagavatam to save all of us and to engage us in the chanting of the holy names and hearing the names. And so on this Nirjala Ekadashi, we pray that we can, that we're fortunate to have the opportunity to take on some austerity so that we can purify the heart and develop this attachment for chanting the holy names of the Lord and become free of this envy, invoke this humility, and become fully satisfied. Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Any discussion, comments, questions, corrections?
So after Shakti, what do we do?
So Shakti is the 7th step, so 9 steps. When we are attached, one practices spiritual life with such an intensity that then Bhava Bhakti emerges in the heart. Bhava Bhakti, one is explained in Nectar of Devotion, that one becomes imbued by the Lord with this Shambhat Shakti and the Haladini Shakti, this ability to enjoy the pleasure potency of the Lord and the ability to know. This is bestowed upon the devotee, and one begins to experience the ecstatic symptoms of spiritual life. And Bhava Bhakti is the budding stage of Krishna Prema. Like a flower, when the bud emerges, it's just about to bloom. So just before the full bloom is this budding stage. So it's explained that once one reaches Bhava Bhakti, very shortly thereafter, Krishna Prema awakens. And that is the goal of life, to awaken our pure love, right? We say, Mahavadanaya. Why is Mahavadanaya? Because Krishna Prema Pradayate. He's giving us Krishna Prema. That is the goal of life. The goal of life, if we get more specific, to go back to Godhead, we have to have our desire very clear. If our desire is to go back to Godhead, to enjoy the opulence of the spiritual world, we'll be miserable. The goal of going back to Godhead is to be able to serve the Lord in an unencumbered way. When I try to serve the Lord in the material world, my body aches, my mind goes hither and thither, my eyes can't see, my hands don't do exactly, all the limitations. But when in the spiritual world, in my spiritual form, I have an eternal opportunity to serve the Lord without any encumbrances. And thus, I want to go back home, back to Godhead. So my desire to go back home, back to Godhead has to be centered on the principle that, so that I can serve my Lord with full facilities. And that is Krishna Prema. So from a Shakti attachment comes. So in this sequence, the long stage is Bhajana Kriya to Anartha Nivritti. This practice. And that is why Srila Prabhupada says that such a devotee, after his initiation by the Lord or his bona fide representative, takes very seriously to the chanting. So it is through the initiation process to the bona fide spiritual master that we have the path to practice Bhajana Kriya, to purify the heart. Okay. Yes?
Can you go up and down on that? Like, for example,
Well, so when we say anartha nivritti, actually, again, this is explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that we are not fully anartha nivritti. There are still some tinges of anarthas until one reaches Krishna Prema. Actually, through the stage of Bhava Bhakti. So, up until that point, yes, one can still fall down. But one once reaches Bhava Bhakti and then into Prema, it is considered infallible. But don't try your luck. But because of the presence of anarthas, there are some tinges of anarthas in Nishta, Ruchi, Shakti. It's possible. But we should not observe or analyze the journey of anyone. Very careful. Don't think, oh, this person went here and fell down. Remove that from your consciousness. That is your death trap. Remember Rupa Goswami's instructions in Shri Upadeshamrita. Very carefully. But from an introspection, yes, we can understand. But be careful not to try to analyze. Because we don't know. We don't know what happens. So better not to. Unfortunately, due to our conditioned state, instead of celebrating the name and fame and glories of the Lord, the heart somehow is attracted to hearing the challenges of others. That is how sickening the anarthas are. We become attracted to that which is unattractive.
In this mission of preaching, and we're following the footsteps of Mahajanas like Prahlad Maharaj, Shukadeva Goswami, they are perceiving, or they are approaching sinful persons and taking on the suffering of others for their welfare. And in that sense, they're always praying to Krishna as if they're sinful themselves. Sometimes praying like, when we say Trinadapi, Sunishana, and we're thinking of ourselves lower than the straw on the street. In a sense, that's like we're accepting that we're conditioned or maybe we're accepting that we have some anartha. Is that in order to get us across anartha nivritti? And so being embodied, it's almost like we have to accept that we're full of dirty things, and then by the mercy we get past anartha nivritti. It doesn't seem to be something that can just happen by our will or effort.
Yeah, a few things to unpack in that question and statement. Remember, the 9 symptoms of Bhava Bhakti. One of them is that one understands that this can only be achieved by the mercy of Krishna. Our own initiative is not sufficient. Only when the Lord is sufficiently pleased and bestows upon us, then it can happen. this idea of accepting our anarthas is very important. Right? If I accept that I am sick, then I have a path to healing. If I'm in denial of it, then I'll not heal. So if I accept the reality, which is, yes, my heart is full of anarthas, but at the same time, one can be very nishchayat, confident, that by the potency of the holy names, I will soon be free of them. Rupa Goswami says, be confident. Right? Utsaha nishchayad darya. Be confident that by the potency of the Lord in His holy names, all the trash in my heart, which is there, it's real. I can become free of it. Not by my own doing. And this consciousness we see, how long it goes? Remember, the Uttama Adhikari, he doesn't preach. Huh? How the highest qualified devotee doesn't preach? Why he doesn't preach? Because when the Uttama Adhikari goes out into the world, he sees or she sees nobody more fallen than them. So they can find nobody to preach because they only see their own impurities, even though they're not even there. And they see everybody else as advanced souls. So in order to preach, the Uttama Adhikari comes down to the Madhyama Adhikari level, in which one knows who is senior, who is junior and worthy of compassion, who is junior and worthy of staying away, and who is a peer. These 4 levels. The Madhyama Adhikari understands. So the pure, the highest qualification devotee, they see still their own impurities. And this is the consciousness, We see Haridas Thakur. He was Nam Acharya Haridas Thakur. He is sitting just outside the garden where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally distributing Mahaprasad to all the associates. And he's calling, Haridas, Haridas, come. He's calling Haridas Thakur to come and receive Jagannath Mahaprasad from the hands of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How amazing. And what does Haridas say? I am not qualified to be in the assembly of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and his devotees. How humble. And he stayed back. And Govinda brings Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Maha to Haridas Thakur. But how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reciprocated? When Haridas Thakur left his body, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally took him on his lap, danced in the streets of Jagannath Puri, bathed him in the ocean, and placed him in samadhi. So this mood of acknowledging, seeing, owning our impurities, we see up to the highest levels of devotion. So it is good to embrace our impurities and embrace the path of overcoming them by chanting of the holy names. And we celebrate the potency of Krishna's names for its purificatory effects on our conditioned heart. So that is how we can hold that all together. And at the same time, like the Uttama Adhikari, we only see the glories of others. In our conditioned state, unfortunately, we only see our glories and we see the shortcomings of others. But the devotee, they only see the glories of others, and they own their own shortcomings. We have to flip it. And in that state, one will up the path of Krishna Prema. I asked, how long does it take to go from step 1 to step 9? That is up to us. That is up to us. Just ask Katavanga Maharaj, right? Just in a second. Any other comments or questions? Yes.
So what do we take initiation from? Like Madhyamadikari or Uttamadikari?
They are Uttamadikari, but they are acting on the platform of Madhyamadikari. But they are a Mahabhagavad. A bona fide guru is an Uttamadikari. Because the qualification of the Uttamadikari is that they have unbreakable faith and they have full knowledge. Madhyamadikari still is developing. And Uttamadikari. And because of that, they can convince all of us and establish faith within our heart. Because remember, the first step to prema is Shraddha, faith. But the spiritual master must be, as Prabhupada always writes, bona fide representative. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Wish everybody a very glorious Nirjala Ekadashi. And thank you very much. Grantharaj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki, Hare Krishna.